I had a person ask me just recently if I was some high-ranking member in, I can't remember what, I think it was something like the Masons organization, 33rd degree Mason somewhere, or if I was someone involved in the Qliphoth that teaches about that sort of thing. And so, to be real honest with you, I actually had never heard the word Qliphoth before, or the opposite. And I'm not even going to attempt to articulate the correct words, but the fact that there's the supposedly in the Kabbalah, there's the dark side of creation, of evil, which deals with the Qliphoth, and then there is the, I guess, the righteous side, which I don't even remember the name of it because I don't read the Kabbalah and stuff like that. I have a very brief understanding of those sorts of things. So I spent a couple weeks doing some research on it since that person asked me if I was heavily involved in that sort of thing. And to answer you, no, absolutely not. I'm never been a member of the Masons. I have no clue about the Qliphoth and stuff like that, or I at least had no. But now I understand why he asked me that, because the way I define how creation came into existence and us, etc., it actually does sound very similar to how they explain it in the Kabbalah or in the Qliphoth and stuff like that. Which is kind of interesting because I wasn't aware that other than some ancient Hindu writings cover that to a certain degree, excuse me, and some past enlightened gurus talk about reality coming into existence from nothing, or the realm of nothingness. And then if you further read and study, the concept of Brahman is the realm of nothingness. Or in talking about the Qliphoth, things emanating from this realm of nothingness would be the same as Brahman. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's because the interesting aspect of Qliphoth is that how twisted it is, how incorrect it is, how wrong it is, and yet it's so in-depth and so closely aligned with the true nature of reality that I felt there's some validity to how these writings came into existence, and I'm going to explain that right now. First off, let me make something super duper clear to you. The things I teach because I got it directly from God. I didn't read it out of books. I didn't get it from some other organization. Although I have been on this path since I was a child, what I am teaching, and the reason I make these videos, is because I started to receive direct communications from above, if you want to call it that, probably close to 30 years ago. And I kept my mouth shut for many years, thinking that I really should keep my mouth shut. This is something that's so different than everything else. Well, I don't want to make a spectacle of myself, and I certainly don't want to be different than everybody else in religion and stuff like that. Even though I kept getting input from vertical, if you will, I did not want to divulge any of that other than to my wife, my younger brother, and I have a nephew from my oldest brother that is very spiritually inclined, all of them. And so, yeah, I share with them. But other than that, nobody else. Until I started making these videos. So my point being is, in other words, I'm not making videos about the Catholic Church. I'm not making videos about Sanatana Dharma. I'm not making videos about Mormonism. I'm not making videos about the Baptist Church or Christianity. I'm not making videos about anything that already exists. Why would I? Why reinvent the wheel? Because it already exists. I'm not intending to create my own church or this or that or whatever that is similar to those churches. And I'm not intending to create anything. I'm just telling you what God gave me, and I don't really care what you do with it. I don't even know why I do it, other than I feel that that's what I'm supposed to do. So that's why I do it. I try to keep it kind of secret, and that's why I don't even use my true name and blah, blah, blah. I could go on forever. But suffice it to say, what I'm teaching, there isn't anything else in the world like it, because if there was, I would have discovered it. I've searched everywhere for decades. It doesn't exist. So I put it out there. And another reason I put it out there is because it contradicts most of what is taught, if not all of what is taught. And I put it out there because I wonder if there's people out there that feel alone. In other words, they're on the same path as me, and they go, golly, I feel alone in the world because nobody, I don't feel comfortable with that religion or that or that or that or that or that. And so maybe by watching this, if they're on the same path, they could go, wait, I'm not alone in the world. Somebody else is on the same path. Also, I just want to make another thing crystal clear. It isn't like I get this vision or revelations and stuff like that just arbitrarily because I don't deserve it or whatever the case may be. Since I was a young kid, I have always prayed to God and asked to know everything in regards to spirituality. Essentially, I asked to know more than anyone, in fact, everyone that has ever lived put together. And if my brain is incapable, then God, the creator of everything, can maybe increase my brain to hold additional knowledge and wisdom and information in regards to spirituality, so that I could know more than everyone else that has ever existed put together. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that even if I could hold all that in my mind or brain, that doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else, and that doesn't mean I think I'm better than anyone else. That's just my proclivity. I like to know. And then I realized by reading the Qliphoth and stuff like that, the dark side is the exact same way. In other words, they seek knowledge of the secret creation of reality to gain power and authority and blah, blah, blah. The list goes on the dark side. That's why they seek after information. I don't seek after it for that reason. I just seek after it because it interests me, because I'm curious as to how God created everything. And so God tells me. Now, that being the case, let's get back into this Qliphoth thing. The reason I say that is an incorrect view of reality is because it goes deeply into how reality was created, especially dealing with the dark side. And let me tell you, in a nutshell, the reason it's incorrect is because it basically puts the blame or the onus or the burden of responsibility on the shoulders of the creator of all reality, that evil or bad things or whatever is on God's shoulder, not your shoulder or the devil's shoulder or Satan's shoulder or Shiva's shoulder or whatever. It always deflects and puts the burden of responsibility on the creator of everything. And that is incorrect. That is a false, it is a cop-out, it is wrong, and it is a misinterpretation. Now, how is it possible somebody several hundred years ago, a Jewish person, I can't remember the name, Laurie or whatever, came up with the Qliphoth and stuff like that? How is it they had this eerily same concept of how reality came into play? When I got it from God, where the heck did they get it from? It had to come from the dark side, because you can't have these two things that are so close to each other, line upon line and this and that, et cetera, and then compare the two and see how closely they are and go, well, just randomly the Qliphoth came into existence. No, that's not true. Clearly there's some validity to it from a dark side, an evil side, and it is wrong. So, to contradict what the Qliphoth says, I'm going to say it again. I've said it before. This is what has been revealed to me. The Brahman, if you will, or the realm of nothingness, if you will, is where the essence of every one of us, lies. And it lies in nothingness because it is nothing until it becomes something. And so in Eastern philosophy, Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, etc., they talk about the Atman as being the core essence of each individual. And of course, they like to tie that back to God, but you can't. You cannot tie that back to God, because that is in the realm of Advaita, where not two or not one or not anything is what that defines. Okay, so the essence of you, call it an Atman, exists in non-existence in Brahman, and Brahman is nothingness, and God, the creator of all things, shone his light or her light or its light or love. We call it light because we can relate to light and how it travels through the universe. So, and we know that light is, we know how light reacts, and so we can relate to that, but we can't relate to love. But it is love, it isn't light, but we use the term light. So God shone his light / love into the nothingness, and then your Atman responded to that. And as soon as it responded to it, because it didn't have to respond, by the way, it could have ignored the light, it could have ignored the love, but it didn't. And when it responded, there was only two choices, just like a computer thing. There was only two choices, either yes or no, on, off. And so when your Atman responded, it could have remained off, but it chose to say yes, and it turned on. And as soon as it turned on, it just absolutely had to leave nothingness, because now it is somethingness. And in the somethingness of the onness was an attachment to God, the creator of all things. So now it is a nothingness, and a somethingness. Nothingness, somethingness. The somethingness is God. The nothingness is yourself, your Atman. And when you combine those two, and then you start adding and adding and adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, just like a computer program, you open up your computer and it's like, whoa, that's a very, very, very complex system that you have there based upon on and off. I mean, it's just on and off. That's all it is. A system of zeros and ones. That's what it is. Well, that's where we're at billions, trillions of years later. And Lucifer, Shiva, all the different gods, Jesus, yourself. Well, where did evil come from? Well, according to the Qliphoth, it was a messed up part on the side of God by creating the light, and then the shells couldn't contain the light, and so the shells are evil, and all this convoluted garbage trying to shed the responsibility away from the Atman that is choosing evil. And then basically exonerating themselves from the responsibility of evil. And that follows all the way up to the level of Lucifer himself. Lucifer is an ignorant fool, essentially. Now, when I say ignorant fool, that doesn't mean that he's unintelligent. Obviously, since he's the god of this realm or this reality or this world or whatever, we're not talking about a stupid individual. Shiva / Satan, same individual, very intelligent and everything, but ignorant in the essence, in the concept that he doesn't understand the nature of God. He does not understand. And when Jesus talked about no one has seen God except the Son, well, even the Son didn't see God, other than like I see God, which is a indefinable way of, you don't see it with your eyes. They talk about a third eye or whatever. Anyways, so Lucifer has never seen God, as well as Jesus has never seen God. So they choose based upon faith. And Lucifer has never seen God. So he makes up his own explanation as to how evil came into existence. Now, whether it's a lie or whether it's really what he thinks, I don't know. I've actually never talked with Lucifer. But I do know that he's wrong. This I do know. This I do know that the Qlippoth is wrong, because that's not how evil came into play. How evil came into play is just simply the fact that, I'm going to digress just a little bit to try to explain this. Meaning, what's the difference between good and evil? That's like saying, what is better, a bear or a lion? And it's like, well, what's the criteria? There has to be a criteria, because you can't say which one is better. Which is better, a bicycle or a rocket ship? Well, I don't know. What's the criteria? I mean, there has to be a criteria to base it on before you can say one is better than the other. So you say, okay, well, here's God, and then here's not God. God, the attributes of God is love, etc., etc., etc. Well, what is the opposite of love? Well, that's over here. So the opposite is evil. So what is the judging attribute, the difference between good and evil? Just like, what is better, a bear or a lion? Well, it depends. Are we talking about running? Well, if you're considered running is God, well, then the lion is going to outperform the bear. So consequently, what's the difference between good and evil? Well, good is God, evil is not God. That's the criteria, okay? So if there's no criteria, then there's no difference between good and evil. They're just different. That's just like a bear is different than a lion. One is not better than another. They're because there's no criteria for basing your judgment. So the basis for the judgment is God. And if you don't know God because you've never prayed to God, you don't have faith in God, and you don't know the attributes of God, well, then you're not going to know the difference between good and evil. There's no way to know. And so according to Lucifer, the aspects of God which we can pile upon the attributes of Jesus, well, we'd have to conclude that Jesus is a weak individual, a fool, an idiot that chose a path of weakness and got hung on a cross for his idiocracy and weakness. So that is not a very powerful position, but that's based upon the criteria of power, authority, rules, regulations, etc., the way this world runs. So, another thing, a lot of science and people, this is a concept that I want you to pay attention to, because this is incredibly important, and it's like right over the heads of most people because they can't grasp the concept of this. And that is, they think, well, how can something emanate from nothing? That's impossible. But pay attention to this. How can something come into existence from nothing? Well, if you understood reality correctly, then that wouldn't be difficult. What am I saying if you understood it correctly? Well, correctly is there is nothing. There's no possibility that something exists. The universe doesn't exist. There's no physicality. I don't have a body. There's no camera. Electricity doesn't exist. Space doesn't exist. The space that space exists in doesn't exist. There is no reality. It doesn't exist, okay? Once you realize that, or once you understand that, there's a difference between realize and understand. Realize is experiencing it. Understanding it is understanding the words of what I'm saying. I realize it. That's part of the concept of enlightenment. So once you realize that, then you know that obviously everything is nothing. Okay? So when you see a reality or a world or a universe, or you see physicality and you see 1 + 1 = 2 and all of this concepts and everything, that is an imaginary reality created by the Creator, okay? God. The Creator created everything as an illusion, and your Atman came out of non-existence and is co-existing in the creation of the Creator, okay? So what are you creating out of nothing? You see, because now that we know there is nothing already, now, that doesn't mean that there's not a physical world. I'm just saying the physical world is an imaginary reality created from nothing, from the mind of the Creator into existence, okay? So what are you creating? See, you don't even know that you're a creator, but you are. What are you creating? Are you creating love? Or are you propagating greed? Are you enforcing ignorant laws and rules and all of this other garbage that exists in this world? I mean, there are evil people that are 1 in a million that control the rest of the entire planet because we follow these ignoramus rules and regulations that are evil in nature. And that's this reality. The God of this reality is Lucifer. And so he's got the power and authority. So when you have, when you're looking at books, okay, you read the Qliphoth, you read the Old Testament, New Testament, the Bible, the Vedas, all of these things. These are physical things that you read. You open up and you read them. They are a pacifier. They are an imitation for the real thing. They're not real because they're physical. You see, there's no such thing as reality. So when you open this book and you go, well, according to 2,000 years ago, this is what is reality and everything. Don't listen to that idiot on YouTube, because he doesn't pay attention to those things, because he says, well, I get it directly from the source. Well, where do you think these people that supposedly wrote these things got it from? I mean, there has to be a source at some point. And what you're doing is you're relying on some convoluted writings that have been misinterpreted over 1,000 times for eons. And you say, well, this is what reality is. Don't pay attention to somebody that says they get it directly from the source, and it contradicts the written format of what reality is. Yeah, well, that's why Lucifer or Satan or Shiva is the god of this world. Why? Because people listen to him. People pay attention to what is written. So consequently, think about this. Since reality doesn't really exist, it's just an imaginary format, of course Jesus could walk on water if he wanted to. Water doesn't exist anyways, if you have that understanding. I don't want to go into details because it's kind of humbling to me, and I'm not a proud person. But when I have blessed people that are dying and they don't die, why is it effective? I'll tell you why it's effective. Because I know their body isn't real. I know that their Atman, their spirit, the only thing that is real is functioning through that physical body. So, can I heal it? Can I bring them back to life or whatever? Of course I can. It's not a hard thing to do. It's an imaginary reality we live in. Why do you think faith is so powerful in religious circles where people can, the congregation prays and maybe something changes or whatever and whatever? It's because reality is like quantum mechanics. It can be this or it can be that. And if everyone were to change like overnight, then this reality would get out of the Kali Yuga and back into the Dwapara Yuga or whatever. I mean, things would change. It could change overnight. It's like I got a vision directly from God how money is supposed to be created. But do you think I can explain to anyone? No, of course not. They won't listen to me. So what? We exist in a reality where money is created by Lucifer, which enslaves the entire population of the planet Earth. All 7 billion people. Anyways, the point of this video was on the Qliphoth. It's an interesting read, I'll give you that. And if you go into DuckDuckGo, you can write Qliphoth or anything you're researching and then put the letters after it, PDF for instance. Most of these books that are like impossible to get, you can download them and read them for free, the whole cotton picking thing. People print these things. When I say print, they put them on the internet under PDF. And when I say DuckDuckGo, it's because Google has an algorithmic system that is designed to make money, okay? So it's not designed to give you information, it's designed to make money. So when you Google, and you're trying to find something truthful or information or whatever, unless Google can make money on it, they're not going to give you that information. There are ways to get the information, but you have to be a computer guru to figure that stuff out. So yeah, you have to find different search engines to find this sort of truth out. If you click on something and you Google it, yeah, you'll find a lot of sources if you want to pay money. But if you actually want to get the information, try DuckDuckGo. That's a good one. And I'm sure there's other search engines that would probably work too, but that kind of works for me. That's a side note. anyways, I appreciate you watching. And thank you for the comments, by the way, and stuff. It helps me understand where people are coming from. I will tell you one thing, and this is a truism. I found it out on my own, okay? There was a spiritual concept that I was trying to teach an individual several years ago. And I taught this person, a friend of mine, for hours and hours and hours because there was nowhere for them to go. We were in a car together for 10 hours. And the concept was simple. Well, to me it was simple. And I talked to them for hours and hours and hours. And it seemed like they got it. It seemed like they got it. And then bam, they would like go off in another direction. It's like, no, you're wrong. And they bring them back. And so I discovered that apparently, I don't know how this works, but apparently if your heart is not right, meaning spiritually, you can't understand these things. There's a comparison. For instance, you know how in gangs, for instance, bad, evil gangs, to become a member, for instance, they'll give you a gun and they'll say, well, you have to murder this person or you have to shoot someone and kill them to be accepted as a member of our gang. Or in the movie star industry or in politics, maybe it's child molestation or something of that nature that you have to perform knowingly to be part of that group, so that there's no way you can go back and say, oh, these people are bad, look what they're doing. Well, you're bad too because you murdered someone. You see what, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, well, likewise, as above, so below is the saying. Likewise, if you want to understand the things I'm talking about, you have to extricate yourself from the normal plateau of reality that we exist in. You actually have to raise your level of understanding spiritually. They talk about vibration or whatever. You have to raise it. It's just like the person that has to kill someone to be a member of a group or whatever. That's going this direction. If you want to go this direction, you have to do things spiritually. You have to actually do something out of love and do it for the right reasons out of love and stuff like that. And then you have to maintain that forever. You can't go down below it. And then you have to keep raising that if you want to understand the things that I'm talking about, because otherwise there's no way to understand it. As witnessed by that situation where I was trying to teach this person a concept for hours and hours and hours. They just couldn't get it. And they're an intelligent individual, and they couldn't get it. Why? I realized because the person I was talking to, by the way, was a low spiritual person, a very carnal, if you will, individual, and they just couldn't get it. And I was shocked. It's like, this is really bizarre that this person can't understand what I'm talking about. This is so bizarre. I thought they were joking me. I really did. I thought they were punking me because nobody is this damn stupid. It's impossible to be this stupid. And yet they couldn't grasp it. So what I'm saying is, if you want to understand these things, it's impossible. You can't do it until you raise your spiritual vibration. And that's a simple thing to do, by the way. I mean, the love of God, the love of your neighbor, and the love of yourself. Jesus spelled it out crystal clear. You don't have to follow rules. You don't have to follow regulations. You don't have to go to church on Sunday. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do anything. You just got to, your heart. You just have to make, by the way, your heart love. You have to activate it. And if you do that consciously, then you'll start getting these things that I'm talking about. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I love each and every one of you that find this interesting. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.